And so active care leads into strength training, performance type of approaches. And so that's essentially where it led me. And I started incorporating a lot more strength conditioning type of stuff, because if we're really meeting people where they are, a lot of people don't even need corrective exercise per se, like ground movements and simple stuff. A lot of people just need really good, safe training, right? Mm-hmm. And so having a quality understanding of exercise science and strength conditioning allows us to really meet people where they are and get them towards their goals faster in a safe manner.
You're listening to the Restoring Human Movement podcast, where movement experts discuss the latest evidence-based practices to help you and your clients move with mastery. And now, your host, Dr. Sebastian Gonzalez.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Sebastian Gonzalez, your host for the Restoring Human Movement podcast. Thanks for joining the movement. If this is your first time, welcome. Glad to have you here, and glad you're going to spend the next roughly about an hour with me. And today, a guest, we have Dr. Ben Ramos, who is a chiropractor down in San Diego, sunny San Diego area. So everyone likes flying into San Diego for stuff. So I was introduced to Ben Ramos by a couple people, actually. One is the co-host, or serial co-host, Dr. Cody DeMack, as well as Eric Reese, who was he was on a while back. I should probably have him back one day. I think it was around like number 40-something or so. So I thought Ben was going to be a really good person to have on in regards to talking about kind of learning skills over time. And actually, let me retract real quickly. If you're a clinician and you have jumped onto this thing and this is your first time, just know that there's a variety of topics that we do cover. We went through a spurt of business management stuff over recently. I tend to interview a lot of guests who are experts, as well as, I would say, hidden gems. And I would say Ben is a really good hidden gem. If you're a patient and you're onto this, I tend to use a lot of these podcasts as ways to blend the lingo that medical people use and that you use. So I think we can do a better job of kind of bringing down the techie aspect and not seeming like we're talking over people's heads, and make better analogies and relate it to what you experience more. But also, too, leveling you up at a little bit of understanding is going to be helpful for you understanding some of these analogies, because it's hard to break down complex things into simple things sometimes, and that takes a whole different skill. So I'm hoping that you also are going to learn something from this podcast here. I apologize. Some of the other ones are a little bit more condition-friendly. This one's a little bit more of a broad overview of just education. So hang in with me there, and I think you guys will still get something from this. So when we go into the interview with Ben, I thought he would provide a really good experience and share some knowledge based upon what he found in his continuing education journey. And he is he hasn't been out of school an extremely long time, but the interesting thing about him is that he took a ton of continuing education when he was in school. And I'd venture to say that probably over the course of him being, through the profession, he's probably taken more content hours than me, and I've been out of the school for about 10 years now at the time of this recording anyways. So it's interesting to see when you go through that many courses, you kind of get to shuffle through of what's productive and what's not, and what you would use and what you wouldn't use in certain situations. So he's got a lot of good experience in that. So I thought, as some of you have emailed me and asked, hey, what do I take next? I thought this would be a really good topic for him to go through. Now, just so you guys do know ahead of time, we are launching, Ben is actually a partner of mine, as well as Philip Snell, in what we call one of the best things to come to the chiropractic profession in, I'd say, the last 10 years here. And this is going to be an amazing online continuing education course. And I know that if any of you are like me, you get to the point where your birthday's about coming, you think, I don't have time to go to one of these seminars right now, because they're, you got to book a flight, go to the hotel, pay thousands of dollars to go to one of these ones where you feel like you're going to learn something really useful, and then you also lose on clinic money too. So what we attempted to do was actually take some of the best presenters that we could find on certain topics and surround a certain condition. In this case, it's going to be flexion-intolerant back issues, or we might say AKA disc injuries, which is a common thing that we all really see. And we wanted to get people to cover different avenues so you guys can comprehensively feel like these back cases are simple. I thought I would just frame that in the beginning here because full disclosure, if you do buy the course, we do get money. But we're trying to dabble and get you guys to uncover some of the maybe hidden tools that you didn't know existed. I learned a lot through this course, actually, because I was making the questions on the other end. But I thought as you guys would go through this course, you would think of them as little snippets, like a little flight, a beer flight of figuring out which course you want to go into next. So before we go into interviewing Ben Ramos, I'm going to share a personal story with you again. Now, I don't know if you guys have some odd smells that you really like, and I know I've heard some people really like the smell of gasoline, and they just love that stuff. I don't know why they love that shit. But I would think that actually one that kind of takes me back is that we had this old vacuum cleaner growing up. I remember it was beige and brown, and I don't remember what type it was, but it wasn't very efficient. And it was old, and we had to keep changing the belts on the darn thing. And by the way, you remember when vacuum cleaners had bags on them? Like, they don't have bags anymore, or at least I haven't seen them. So we had this old burnt-up belt all the time. So I would actually volunteer to vacuum the house because the smell of this belt was just intoxicating. Like, it was... I mean, I can remember the smell now. Like, none of the vacuums that I've had since probably the age of 15 has the same smell to it. But I wouldn't say it smelled clean. It just smelled like burning rubber. And it's not the same as when you do burnouts or whatnot. But yeah, that's just one smell that I could recognize it if you had another vacuum cleaner like that. So I'm on the hunt for the perfect vacuum cleaner to have that perfect smell. Just not enough to like knock you out and like, you know, get you to go into a coma, but just enough to give you that little hint of childhood, you know? Like, you know how like you have McDonald's and it doesn't really taste good. It just tastes like McDonald's. It just tastes like mustard and pickles and ketchup, that big conglomerate mess that they have on that hamburger. So you got those unique smells and taste, huh? What's your unique smell? Think about it. Let's get into the content. All right, everyone, welcome on Benjamin Ramos. Ramos?
Yes.
I like to say Ramos.
I know you do. I like to say Gonzalez.
Hey, so last night when we were texting back the word Cody back and forth, did you just have no more creative ways to say Cody or no?
I had a million other ways, but I was just sparing you the time. I had like 10 other things I was going to text you, and I had the time to do it, but I decided not to. So
if I would have just blasted you with a couple more, would you have responded back maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I would have enjoyed the volley. It would have been great.
Nice. Next time. So for everyone who doesn't know you, this is Benjamin. I'll let him speak about who he is, but I thought I'd have him on a little bit. He's a partner of mine in the online CE course that we're putting on, and he's just a wealth of knowledge with a bunch of random shit. So typically, a bunch of the stuff that I've learned through seminars, I say, "Hey Ben, what course do I go to?" And he always has a gold nugget. So let's let Ben say what's going on.
So Ben Ramos, I'm a chiropractor. I graduated in December 2015. Just a bit of a nerd when it comes to continuing education and trying to just get as good as I can at this, like the rest of us, right? We all want to learn as much as we can, and that's practically valuable, and help the people we work with the best we can. So, as a result, I was in a lucky scenario where I was able to attend a whole lot of continuing education while I was in school. And then also after school, the connections I made when I was in school, I ended up doing a lot of hosting and just a whole lot of con ed after school as well. So
what was the first seminar you went to, actually? Like the one that wasn't actually required for you to show up?
You mean like in school?
Well, I know you took a bunch in school. You took right. How many hours did you take when you were in school, actually?
I think I took while I was in school, I took 40 plus con ed courses, like actual con ed courses. The maybe like 8 or 9 of those were conferences, right? So like
Perform Better,
rehab symposium, perform better, So yeah, maybe 10 of those were conferences, but the first course that I took was Craig Liebenson's in San Francisco. I was in fourth quarter. I was still in the basic sciences. I remember because I had a microbiology test on Monday coming back from it, And but yeah, the first one I went to was Craig Liebenson, San Francisco, with Justin Dean. That's where I met Philip Snell. That's where I met the other partner in this thing. Met Philip Snell there. I met Michael Rintala. I met Daniel and Michael Lord. I met Marianne Harrington or Marianne DMAC, right? And
I think she has a hyphen now.
Right. Yeah. So that's where I met all them. Justin Dean took me down there. But that was my first course that I actually went to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did what was at the Liebenson's course actually? That because in fourth quarter, what do you really do with any of that stuff? You don't touch anybody yet.
No, you're not. But it was good because it kind of it was the launching pad for me to start looking into that stuff a lot more. And by the time we did start working on people and learning the more clinical based sciences, I was already, in my opinion, I was ahead of the curve based on where they wanted us to be. I still had a lot to go afterwards, right? Obviously, but it really, and it also helped prepare me for where I wanted to go and practice and what kind of stuff I wanted to learn and how I wanted to approach it. Mm-hmm. Because before that, I was like, I was kind of on the typical sports chiro trajectory, right? Like just ART, you know, it pretty much ART and adjusting athletes, right? I knew strength training and stuff like that was important, but I didn't have as much of as much influence or mentorship in that regard. And then when I went to that course, that's when it really opened it up for me. And that's when I first started getting involved with R2P as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think even now is Liebenson's kind of the only one that addresses like a lot of corrective exercise. And like I've actually never been to one. Sorry, I've been to one. Does Kiyoshi? I want to say Kiyoshi Soto. Koichi. Japanese dude, Koichi. Does Koichi's count? Because Liebenson counted, he did a little bit in there.
I mean, sure.
Okay. So yeah. I just don't find many that apply over to like the application of load and strength conditioning and getting someone back into a safe gym setting. It seems like Liebenson is a good carryover, but I haven't been.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. I mean, from a chiropractic perspective, right? His course is a very good, comprehensive look into corrective exercise. I wouldn't go into as far as saying like strength training and like the gym stuff, but it's an introduction to that stuff as far as it being valuable, but corrective exercise wise and kind of a lot of the principles in that regard. It's an excellent course. It's one of the, in my opinion, it's still one of the best courses as far as a general and comprehensive corrective exercise course that I think everyone should take. And Jason Brown also teaches teaches similar material, like Craig gave him his blessing to do that, and Jason does an amazing job as well. And it's just you learn so much more that you can do on Monday to help people in either one of those courses. So I think they're great. Yeah.
So probably a little later, I'll probably get just for personal questioning is what courses are the ones that we should probably all want to take, because I had a couple of students that emailed me over the last couple of weeks. They're like, hey, I want to learn this, and that. Where do I do it? And rather than just doing like an email to each one of them back, it'd be just nice to share this podcast. But as you kind of went through, I know that I started with mainly, I actually did active release before I actually went into chiro school. I was still in undergrad when I took a course. And then, yeah, so my route into there was mainly that, and then I was kind of poo-pooing on adjustment for a while, and then I realized adjustments have some value, and not until years later did I realize the value of corrective exercise, and then the power of actually doing corrective exercise in the right dosage and intensity. But what was your kind of bias and come from back when you were going through those ones?
When I first started, like the courses, the coursework.
Well, even like before you got in school, why the hell did you get into chiropractic school? You could have been other things.
Oh, so my story of getting into chiropractic was I was in the Navy and I was doing jiu-jitsu a ton, right? Loved jiu-jitsu. I was competing a ton, but in the Navy I was a helicopter mechanic, and I was doing jiu-jitsu a lot, competing a lot, and then I ended up hurting myself, right? Like jiu-jitsu was my passion. I was already planning and to get out of the Navy and do jiu-jitsu full-time for a couple years. Now I wasn't great at it, but I had a nest egg and I was just going to give it a go and have some fun, right? Just compete a lot, dedicate my a couple of years to it, see where it took me. But I ended up having a hip injury. The hip injury led me to going to a whole bunch of different professionals looking for help. And what I learned that it's hard out there to find good help. right? And so I spent a lot of money, and I went to a lot of people that essentially just kind of sucked, you know. It was one size fits all type stuff. A lot of these people just didn't really know how to manage a person that had active goals. And then I ended up having surgery. I had a torn labrum, the FAI, all that good news. I had the surgery. The surgery didn't really help, right? And then afterwards, I ran into a chiro down on the Navy base, and he was kind of more of a strength-based guy. He was kind of limited in what he can do inside of his office, but he was like, "Look, dude, you got to get strong. You got to get after it." Nobody ever really approached it from that kind of perspective. I mean, in PT, they put me in pool therapy. They showed me a bunch of like very simple exercises that are meant for somebody that that had like no athleticism at all. So I followed his advice, and I kind of went back to him for advice and whatnot, and I got better. And then from one of those days, I just went into my car after coming out of the clinic over there on NAS North Island in Coronado, and I was like, well, I'm going to be a chiropractor. So I could have landed in anybody's office for that matter. Like, you know, it just so happened that the first person who actually sat me down, listened to what my wants and needs were and where I was at, and spent the time to take to that is required of any health professional in order to really get to the bottom of somebody's issue. What it happened to be a chiropractor. And then so from then on, I just decided to go to school, become a chiropractor. So, but to your point, I think for me, my bias was never, did I want to do sports, soft tissue? Did I want to do X? Did I want to do this? I could give a shit less. I wanted results, right? My whole passion and goal in that is that I didn't want other people to have to go through that. And I wanted results. So, you know, a hot thing at the time for me in school and everything, everybody talks about soft tissue and ART and stuff like that, which was cool. And in sports, because I want to be a sports chiro, right? And I was super involved in that. I was a national president of the student ACA Sports Council. I was really involved with all that stuff on campus, but that's where a lot of that stuff was. It was essentially traditional chiropractic with soft tissue work on athletes, you know. Mm-hmm. But I wanted results, and so I found like, you know, Craig Levinson's material and R2P and the kind of the approach to active care and the functional approach per se. And then that trajectory just kind of led into a more comprehensive management of you know, people.
So with just so everyone can get an idea of what kind of courses you've already taken, so they can kind of get an idea of where you've been and what you're really maybe the things that you would suggest, just to make sure that they're like, oh, he hasn't been to that, he doesn't know. Just give me a laundry list of random courses that you've taken over the years. Oh man.
Well, I've taken all of Levinson's courses at that time. He's got new stuff out now, but taken all, put it this way. If you look on the R2P website, that's what I did. Mm-hmm. Like, if you look on the R2P certification website, that's essentially what I did. Before I graduated, I had finished all the requirements of the R2P clinical certification, mm-hmm. right? So, I mean, I did a lot of active exercise stuff. I did, you know, Levinson's work. I did a ton of DNS at the time. I was doing a lot of that stuff. I did like 13 DNS courses in total. I did a lot of soft tissue stuff. I did some ART. I did Stecco. I did Factor. I did Graston. I did, you know, various things in that regard. And then I really got into the strength training part of it, because I realized after a while that corrective exercise is a means to an end. And then I really started getting into the strength training part of it, you know, and going to things like Perform Better. I did Mike Boyle CFSC stuff. And I got my CSCS. I started spending more time with strength and conditioning coaches and stuff like that. I also did the Strong First Kettlebell instructor certification as well.
Oh, we did talk about that.
So I mean, I was trying to just get as broad of a knowledge as I could based on the people I wanted to help. And like I said, going from active care, I just want to be the best, right? I just want to be really good and be able to help the people I could the best I can. And so active care leads into strength training, performance type of approaches. And so that's essentially where it led me. And I started incorporating a lot more strength conditioning type of stuff, because if we're really meeting people where they are, a lot of people don't even need corrective exercise per se, like ground movements and simple stuff. A lot of people just need really good, safe training, right? Mm-hmm. And so having a quality understanding of exercise science and strength conditioning allows us to really meet people where they are, get them towards their goals faster in a safe manner, and just a better way. So I started doing a whole lot of that.
So you're thinking then, just to clarify that, then would you think it's fair to say that most people, if there's a deconditioned population, just getting them to do something in a safe way is going to make them feel better?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. But I would agree even some of the most deconditioned people don't need to be on the floor the entire time. And I would say they would benefit from doing something that challenges them a little bit more and makes them feel strong. And you can do that in a variety of ways without it being in the quote unquote corrective kind of realm as they perceive it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, all exercise is kind of corrective exercise. Right. But if we can give them the perception of that they're like training, let them know that they're training and that they're doing hard stuff and that this is what's going to get them from A to B, then I think we should do that. But I mean, in addition to the strength training stuff, something that was very pivotal to all this was, was getting into the biopsychosocial approach and more pain science aspects in that regard, like learning learning from Greg Lehman on multiple occasions, starting to look more into that sort of stuff. And then clinical neurodynamics and learning all the stuff from Michael Shacklock and Butler, Mosley, all those guys. But Michael Shacklock and Butler's work, the mobilization of the nervous system, clinical neurodynamics, made a huge impact as well. So I would say that that's had a big impact on my education as well.
Yeah, I would too. I find that probably the ones that if I were to list important ones, I think any tissue work one would be nice just to make sure you're familiarizing with getting your hands on people. But actually, I found a lot of value, and I didn't go to the McGill course, but just reading his books, it was interesting to see mainly bedside rapport and ways of explaining things in a simple way. So when people come in and see me anyways, I explain them, with triggers and first aid, and I say the corrective or supportive, and then I go into load, which is your strength conditioning. And I say they're in phases, and I say like you might want to take those two away at some point because they're not going to be useful anymore. But then how people come in with like, hey, I got these corrective exercises I've been doing for like 30 years, so do you think I should stop doing them? They can make me feel good. I always tend to think they just never get to the foot on ground closed chain application of life, and that's all what strength conditioning is for me, anyways. Mm-hmm. So. That's my thought, anyways. But the Shacklock one was a great seminar in the regards to radiculopathies and all the things that you tend to not think are nerve based.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned McGill earlier. His approach and his thought process. I mean, I've seen him speak and been to his courses maybe like 6 or 7 times, and he had a huge impact on the way I approach things. But yeah, and also Philip Snell, because he was he came from that kind of a lineage, I guess, with Craig Levinson and McGill and stuff like that. And then he was a large mentor of mine when I was coming up in the game as well. But I would say that, I remember back when I was in school, Justin Dean and I were, the only chiropractors to my knowledge that had even attended Michael Shacklock's clinical neurodynamic course in the United States. And it was a pretty interesting scenario when we showed up in a room full of PTs and it was just us.
Well, you said you were in like Hawaiian shorts, right?
Well, no. Well, Justin and I showed up. Justin and I showed up, and it's like, kind of a manual therapy type of thing. So you want to be like, loose, comfortable clothing that you can move around in and work on each other with. And so, I was wearing a TNC Surf Designs tank top. I remember exactly, and I was wearing Billabong board shorts, right? That were like some like pink, peach, and blue, and I was wearing my little Vivo Barefoot flip-flops with the split toe.
Oh yeah.
I was straight casual. Justin was very similar. And we showed up and it was a room full of PTs in khakis and polos.
Yeah. Were they they must have had to, they had to take their clothes off at some point to get into the neurology.
For palpation and stuff like that. And to be fair, they were all really cool. They were all really cool. But I just think that the course was in Atlanta, and so the type of chiropractors that you're typically around over there aren't like evidence-based variety in a lot of cases, right? And so they were all super cool. We got along really great, and I still keep in contact with some of the PTs that I met there, and they're all really good people.
Yeah, you weren't wearing Chubby's brand shorts, like those the ones like mid-thighers?
Chubby's wasn't even out yet, bruh.
Where'd Chubby start? I thought that was like a frat party thing. Was that down in San Diego?
I don't know, man. I was never a frat kid, dude. You'd have to tell me about that.
No. I went through campus and there was always like rush week. So like as everyone saw everyone sitting at these tables. So there was one year that all my friends that had I abbreviated their name, but I made myself a shirt and it was Sigma Epsilon Beta, and my friend was Lambda Alpha Rho, and another one was Sigma Alpha Lambda, and it says Go Greek on the bottom. And so I still have this shirt and I wear it on occasion. And everyone's like, "Were you in a fraternity?" I'm like, "No, this is my name."
Yeah.
It's in Greek.
Awesome.
So, original t-shirt idea. I'm going to claim it.
You should. You deserve it.
I do deserve that one. Although that t-shirt was like one of the old school cardboard 5 for 10 type of things.
Right on.
Yeah.
High quality. Well, now that's vintage. So
it's just scratchy.
It costs $50 now. Shoot.
It's not one of those like nice Flow Force ones that is just like smoother than shit in the winter.
I mean, I care about the people that wear my shirts, so I make sure they get the good stuff.
No nipple chafing?
Negative.
If you really cared about nipple chafing, like you would probably have the lettering a little higher than most people's nipples. like that's straight across.
Oh shit! I don't even know where to go there. I'm not going to touch that one, dude.
Well, you've heard of the Bloody 11?
The Bloody 11.
Yeah. So marathoners will get it, and they'll wear these T-shirts.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been to marathons, ran a marathon, seen a bunch of people in marathons. All those poor guys running down the end, dipping for Vaseline with blood pouring down their shirt. Yeah,
they gotta do like those little I forget those little circle band-aids, but you do those first for like the first 5 miles till they fall off, and after that you're good. It's just too much exposure. Poor
guys.
Okay, so
back to continue education.
Right. You're wondering if we're gonna have a flow on this thing. So Ben was like, he texted me last night. He's like, "Are we gonna have an outline for this thing?" I said, "No, we're not gonna have an outline for this thing. We're just gonna talk."
You asked me though, but I want to say something that you asked me about earlier as far as courses that I recommend. And I tell people this all the time. If you only had to pick 3 courses to take as a student, like per se, or even anybody that's only got a basic chiropractic education, if you can only take 3 courses, my top 3 courses of 100% are Philip Snell's Fix Your Own Back course, right?
That was a good one.
Yeah, either Craig Liebenson's course or Jason Brown's course, like either one of those two would be number 2 for me, or maybe Philip Snell's in those courses would be mix and match number 1 or 2, but and then number 3 would be clinical neurodynamics. I think that those 3 introduce you to a comprehensive and broad-based understanding of some of the most important topics that you don't get in school, that I think that people should prioritize before they spend money elsewhere. I mean, when it comes to soft tissue, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've taken ART and stuff like that, and I appreciate that stuff, but there's so many ways to skin a cat, and if we're approaching it from kind of a neurological perspective like we should be, it really just comes down to reps, right? Make the person comfortable, try to get the response that you want. You can use any technique you need. All you really need is a room full of a bunch of friends and practice, and that's what most soft tissue courses are, right? Like, It's like whole bunch of basic science, a whole bunch of reasoning that we don't obviously need to hear because it doesn't apply based on the science that we know. And then it skips this big gap of application and it says, press here and move the arm this way, So if we can essentially skip all this part and then just go to a room and use the skills that we were taught in school and practice. And then, I mean, most of the time, I think a lot of people can even say this, they're making it up on the spot. Would you say not? Like,
Well, I think what my interpretation with a lot of people do is they just kind of go with what they feel and what works. And it's based upon, the person you're working with. They might not take certain, pressures and whatnot. And sometimes
every time the same person that likes deep pressure could come in the next time and they'd feel better with skin rolling or better with light pressure or whatever,
Right. Well, so there was a guy that asked me one time because he's like, should I take a soft tissue course? And And I'm like, I think you should, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, why would I do that? I can make it up. And I'm like, you're right. You probably could make a lot of it up because we all know muscular anatomy, we know organ insertion, length, and so on. But I'm like, I guarantee, like, so I paid a shit ton for the course, and I can guarantee that I spent more time on this than you did. Is that fair to say? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm better than you probably at it, you know? Because I've been forced into that because I put skin in the game. So
did you only practice it when you were at that course?
No.
How many weekends or weeknights did you bring your friends together in a room and do that same thing over and over again?
I don't remember, but I know the very first time there was I was scared to death of the test. So I actually I got it like 6 months in advance, and I was just hammering that thing. I highlighted. I was on it. Oh, yeah. So no, I don't remember. I did practice for the DACBSP emergency procedure one though. Holy shit, we did that like 6-7 times, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think what you, to your point though, I think we're agreeing, and it's that the reason that those 3 days or 3.5 days of like I say that course is so valuable is because you get your hands on it, a bunch of different people, and you spend a lot of time on it.
Right.
Say that's how you got better. It wasn't the content itself; it's because you practiced a lot.
Well, I think a lot of the so some of the students that I've talked to are young docs. I think where the lacking point is, and this just comes with clinical experience, reps, and a little bit of guidance. And I think that's what we get from all these courses is, you know, talking after the fact and hey, what works for you in office and so on. Is that they get all these little tools and tricks and so on, and maybe try this with this taste, but we don't really know. But they don't know how to blend all these things together. Right. I think Philip's course is a really good comprehensive approach of holy shit, there's like 5 things in here that are like tangent topics that you can use, and here's how you would use it with this one type of clinical presentation. Now to do it with all the other ones is different.
Far above the structure of that type of course is far and above most other courses I've ever been to, because it doesn't give you one component of it. I mean, you can go to all these different courses and they give you their component of it. What Philip does is he takes you know, from all these different evidence-based resources of how to approach and manage low back pain, which is, you know, one of the major things we see, right? What's it? Number 2 cause of disability behind depression, right? And we all are going to see a ton of it. And he brings it all together, and so you can have a comprehensive way of managing it, right? And I've never been to another course that does that.
Yeah,
you know?
I haven't either. They all got like they all have their beliefs and their bias and their algorithms, which is fine, but it's meant to be picked apart a little bit because no one's going to fit that model. I had a new grad that came in yesterday that we were actually I really want him to come in here. Like I think having Jeremy here like really opened my eyes to helping out, you know, a new grad and hopefully getting him on the course of where I wish I would have been when I first graduated. And this kid was he came from an internship where there was a lot of passive therapies, which is fine, time and place. Right. So he was standing in there, and I said, so this girl came in, and she had an ankle problem, negative X-ray. She had pain with running, and so I was like, just stay for this one. Let's just check it out. So skin rolling improved it. McKenzie extension improved it. She didn't have any like sciatica-based, neuro-based, you know, conditions really. But really, the thing that I think that blew his mind was that I had her run back and forth like kind of jogging. She would sprint fine, but she would jog with pain. And so I gave her some pressure, intra-abdominal pressure cueing, and it went away. And so I was like, we didn't even do any passive therapy on her. It was just a little bit of cueing of movement, you know. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you typically get that in school, and that's why I like talking about this stuff, because you've already been through a lot of that stuff before, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think to be fair, when I was in school, and I think a lot of that guys coming out of school now, at least in the programs that have a very strong base of rehab performance, right? Like R2P club is, man, like we were just a big crew of, 30, 40 people practicing all this stuff all the time. We were all going out and about reading books and learning what we could, and we would come together and we would mesh it and we would try to learn it the best we can. And I think it's significantly better since I was in school, and it's available for everyone to do as long as they're willing to do it. But yeah, I mean, and also to be fair to the schools, there's so much that they need to teach you, right? Mm-hmm. And they're trying to teach you how to be a doctor, right? and they do a good job of that. I think they do a really good job of that, because I mean, there's those moments when you need to break, when you need to, you know, be a clinician, which is all moments, but those moments when that person presents that very complex problem in front of you, and you need to clear out some red flags, or you need to do, you know, make sure they don't have an upper motor neuron lesion, or know when to refer and all that stuff. That's super important. So I think that the educational process is right. I just think that if they were going to teach us all the I mean, we could trim some of the fat and add some more active care in there for sure. But I think they do a pretty good job, and I think R2P fills that gap pretty well. But we still got a long way to go. Yeah,
I think so too. I think, I mean, my thought is the school's responsibility is to get you to pass boards and to get you the DC licensing, and right. They do that, but there's not a corrective exercise station, and, you know, loading or understanding what a strength coach knows. None of this is in boards, so they don't really need to teach it. It's they're doing their job.
Right.
So what are by the way, everyone should know, we don't get any money for suggesting these courses. We're just talking about courses and hopefully guiding you guys
to get better. I want people to be better at helping the people that they serve. That's all.
Right. You know, it's a really hard thing, I think, and I'm going to probably sound like an asshole saying this, is that I don't feel like I know a lot of people that I want to refer certain cases to. And because I just don't know if they're going to get the job done, because they haven't been spending their CE money appropriately. They haven't been thinking outside the box, or they're stuck in one of these little systems, or they haven't
thinking inside the box.
Thinking inside, yeah.
Like, fuck.
So, you know? and I'm not saying this because I feel like I'm, you know, the best, like I'm still learning, but at the same time, I probably wouldn't have referred myself some of these cases 5 years ago, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think everyone should understand that as we're talking about these courses. I thought Ben would be a good one to talk to you about it.
I mean, yeah, it's not easy, right? And we're all just trying to be a little bit better, I hope. I think the base point we got to start from is, do we really want to, do we want to help people the best we can? I think everybody could say yes, right? And if we're being honest with ourselves, then if that's the case, then we're trying to get ourselves better so we can be better at what we want to be good at, right? Okay, good. So we got, I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. It goes through that, and then we need to figure out what is the best way for us to help those people. What do we need to learn? And I think in a lot of cases, the unfortunate part is that people think that just by going to any course, they're learning what they need to learn. But that's not the case. We need to be kind of selective. And so I've taken, like I said, I took a million CE courses when I was in school and and whatnot. But like, if I could go back, I would have not taken a lot of them. You know, there's many of them that I didn't need to take. You know, but I gained experience. I met people while I was there and whatnot. That was good. But if we can hone in on the stuff that counts and matters, then we'd be in a lot better shape. And I think that it really just takes a little bit more thoughtfulness, you know, and it also takes guidance from a mentor or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I know people that are still going to the same courses over and over again. Not to say that that's not a bad thing, but it's like they're not learning anything new, right?
I've always thought it's like there's the point of diminishing return. It's great to be becoming an expert, a really good expert in that one thing, but you're really narrowing your understanding of the other things that could help for these same people, maybe even better, you know. And
right. And it comes to a point too where it's like, man, like we need to be looking into the literature and the current literature, right? Like we need to be spending our time there and advancing our knowledge there. It's just as much as we need to be, you know, taking new information from courses. You know, there's so many different ways to learn. Having conversations, you know, between two people, you know, just more, and picking our brains and having that kind of discourse is all a part of the process.
Mm-hmm. I tend to think that we're all about a year out of education, closer to being really good, really good at most conditions. But also too, just kind of sinking there. And I know when I look at someone, I think, you know, why is this person presenting with this type of pain? Like, what are your possible differentials? But also not just that, but thinking about the theory of what can offload that differential, you know, and then testing those theories down, and they're not going to be the same technique or method, they're going to be a little different things. And surprised. I had a lady the other day, actually, the guy was a better one. So he had a wrist condition. It was, I think it was ulnar aspect, but it's in the wrist. So he came in and he was going like this. So he was brushing his hair, right? And he's like, it only hurts when I brush my hair. Comb. I'm going to say comb. It sounds cooler. So he's combing his hair and he's like, I don't get it. I didn't do anything.
Back.
What's that?
And he was doing this because it was a pocket comb. Yeah.
Right. And then he had a pocket of pomade in a thing of pomade in his pocket, just in case.
He had to take off his do-rag in order to slick it.
Yeah, there was an American flag do-rag. So he was combing his hair, and so I thought maybe that's cervical stuff. Let's look at the cervical. I couldn't find anything. I looked at some neurodynamic stuff. I couldn't find anything. I looked at the wrist, stress tested all around, couldn't find anything. And so I'm like, well, shit, I don't know. Let's load it. So I had him carry. I carried it because it was safe.
Yeah.
So I had him carry around some kettlebells in a farmer's carry, and I had him retest. Didn't do anything. I did a couple more loaded variations, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just tissue work the thing. I tried that. That didn't get better either. So I started kind of feeling up his arm. I'm like, this is like the distribution of. He's kind of pointing a little higher now. Now he's into the lateral elbow crease. Around the lateral epicondyle, and so I started tugging on there, doing some dermal traction, and then he's like, hey, when you push up there, it hurts down on my wrist. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go a little higher. I went around the spiral groove of the humerus and grabbed his skin, and so he started combing his hair after that, and so it went away. I couldn't believe it went away, but it's an example of just a bunch of random shit to try. And
you acted like you knew it was going to happen, right?
No, I told him, I said, really? You got to be kidding. Yeah. And so
he was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. You're like, yeah, me too.
Well, he's a tough seller on this stuff because his wife comes in and like, so he'll come in like sporadically and he'll like complain about his back, and then he'll be good for like a month, and then I'm like, hey, come in, I want to play with you, let's do some things, and he's like, no, I feel good right now. So he's a hard sell. And so when he grabbed that spot and he combed his hair, he's like, you got to be kidding me. We kept trying, and he's like, it went away, it would come back, and I'm like, can you trust me on this stuff? Can you come back when your back is not like hot? I want to play with that. I don't care about this thing. Anyways, an example of random shit that would work I mean, I didn't learn that in school. Dermal traction, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a thought on communication. I know we had this conversation off to the side one time, is that we were talking about just how people who are really good with patients in general just are really good communicators.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. What are some good communicators that you liked to observe? Philip was a good one.
People in particular? Oh yeah. I mean, I would say that every single clinician that I've observed that is really good at communicating, or is an exceptional communicator. I think Philip is probably the best example I could use because his ability to, navigate the conversation in such a way that he connects with the person, and in such a way that he can get the information that's required in order for him to, start the process of assessment and the clinical exam and all that stuff in the right way to kind of hone it down. His ability to do that is amazing. So, I mean, I did my preceptorship, my first preceptorship with him, and it was like a different person going into the damn exam room every single time. And I remember coming out like after the first week, like, damn, this dude is like, he's in there throwing on the good old boy accent for one. The next person, the next person's a physician, and he's coming in and he's being the academic clinical guy. Then the next time he comes in there and it's like, a mechanic, and he starts talking in terms of like, but I think that getting that buy-in and getting that connection with that person is huge, right? It's the, just having that connection and establishing that connection and trust and confidence, and care, right? That they know you care is a pivotal part of being able to help people, right? Because if that trust isn't there, it's very hard to get them in the right direction,
right,
or to keep them,
I think definitely the motivational interviewing, or just figuring out what the person's asking for and what they came in for. And I remember I had this one lady one time that she I did a poor job with her, and so she had a knee issue, and I was interested in her hip to correct her knee. And maybe I didn't explain that right in the beginning, or I didn't hear what her concerns were, but we were about like 45 minutes into it and I was showing her something which was working, but she was just very like, looked irritated. And I was like, is something wrong? Like, is this making sense? And she's like, when are we going to do something for my knee? And just a bad communication at that point. So, but you're right. I think Phillips, I haven't observed him being a chameleon yet. So I'm going to follow him around a little bit.
Like the chameleon. Yeah.
Right on.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of people like that. One of my biggest mentors when I was in school was Dr. Craig Kawaoka,
Oh yeah. He was in my school at first.
Yeah. He was at your school, but then he decided to go to a better one. And then,
I think he just wanted to move away.
Yeah. I don't know what you said to him, but he did.
I never actually had him. I only ran into him at seminars actually.
But man, like he was in charge. He was the clinical director of the sports medicine program for the master's program at Western States. And, he ran all that stuff, and his connection with every single one of the athletes and the coaches and the trainers at all the schools that we went to, man, was top notch. Like you go in there, and everybody trusts the guy, and everybody knew that he had their best interest at heart, and that he was going to be smart, and he was going to think it through, and he was going to help them to the best of his abilities. But man, like, it's just like, you can see it when that happens. You can see that when you've got multiple different schools and athletic training rooms, you get this one guy come in and everybody just all of a sudden feels better because, Dr. K's in the house. Mm-hmm. And it's because he works hard, he works hard and he cares. But that connection and that ability to show people you care and communicate with them effectively is huge.
Yeah. What's the saying? They don't know how much you. Alliance. What's that?
Building that therapeutic alliance.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
You haven't? No. It's you should read up on it.
Okay. Damn, another thing to read. I don't know. Yeah. I still got a couple. I still got to finish your Dan John video.
Oh yeah. You're gonna have to dust off your VCR.
So my VCR actually is a PlayStation 2. And I've been trying to use it every once in a while, and I was actually going to watch Bloodsport the other night.
You break it out, and every time you just end up playing Tekken.
No, actually, there's no games around it. There's only one controller to really control the DVD. The damn thing doesn't work ever, so I think I'm going to junk it and finally just invest. I actually threw away a Blu-ray player about 2 years ago. I'm like, I'm never going to watch DVD again, and now I got this one that I really want to watch. Why can't what's it called again? Why can't Lee Draper just do like MP3 variety?
They do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. Everyone check out Lee Draper, Dan John Interventions.
It's a great DVD. It's a great DVD. Yeah. Absolutely. Dan John is his ability to keep it simple and effective, and his communication style in particular. Damn, that dude.
It's great. Yeah. He can make it so much more complicated if he wants.
If he wants to. I mean, he's a super intelligent guy, but he's just got so much experience, and he's so knowledgeable that he can keep it like extremely simple.
Yeah.
Right.
You ever seen his YouTube videos by chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
They're the grainy ones where he's in his garage telling someone to get up.
Oh man, those are absolutely. But just the way he talks to people too, right? Like his communication style is spot on.
Yeah. And he'll give his cell phone at seminars, and you call it, he picks up.
Yeah.
So he's just a very personable dude. So as we start to go into, we're about 40 minutes in here. I thought I want to make sure that everyone knows we're being transparent with this too. I wanted to have you on with that to talk about the seminars, but also too, we're doing a launch of our online CE course. Okay. Mm-hmm. And me and Ben thought about this idea. This was probably June of last year, and it's finally coming out. We're getting accredited. So we were sitting at a course, and we were just kind of irritated about the fact that course didn't have CEs or available, but it was a good course. I forget what course we were actually at.
I don't remember either.
But we were eating sushi, and we were talking about, I was like, my birthday was coming up. Oh, yeah, June. So my birthday's in June. I'm like, so is this count for CEs? And you're like, no. I'm like, God, I got to go online and do some... I got to go watch that one that you wiggle the damn mouse, and you really don't learn anything more than you learn in school.
And I had just finished it too, because May is my birth month. So like, you know, I had to finish it by May 31st. So on May 28th, you know, or May 29th, you know, I ponied up and took a pointless CE course that I didn't learn much from.
Yeah.
Right?
And I understand that. I mean, so they were. It was cheap. It got the job done, and that's kind of what they are.
Respect for that, yeah.
But so we thought, what if this was just really good and useful, and kind of like a taster, or like a what do they call them? Beer flight. It's like a flight of different courses that you're interested in. That are ones that you haven't experienced yet. So that's basically what we created, but for flexion intolerant backs this round.
You could have just stopped at, what if this was useful? You know,
yeah,
that's really what it was about, right? It was like, literally, because you're spending the money, you might as well get something that's of practical use out of it, right?
Yeah. It's tough. They're like PDFs or like PowerPoints of like old stuff. Like one taught me about lateral epicondylitis. I don't need to know more about lateral epicondylitis. I already know what it is, you know?
Not in the same frame of that they talk about it, right? I mean, it's like you could look at your old school notes from it. You know, it's such a superficial look into it.
Right. Did you have Sousa, by the way? We had the Sousa book.
Yeah, we used that one. I have it right here, actually.
Oh, yeah. I think I did see it that day. You have two Sousas, don't you?
I've got all the Sousas.
So anyways, so we're starting to launch this course, and so what I thought would be really fun is to have all the presenters on via a podcast each week until they're done. So Ben is one with me. He's also a partner, as well as Philip Snell. This module is called The Secrets of Flexion Intolerant Cases, and we are the ethics teachers, believe it or not. So we're trying to make ethics interesting and fun and something that scares the shit out of you, so you actually are considerate of what you should be doing in your class, or sorry, in your clinic.
It had an effect on us, at least.
It had that effect on us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt grimy after. I didn't want to touch a patient again. There was the one. So we what's that?
There was just some bad. Well, so what Seb's getting into is we did a bunch of cases, right? We and these came from the NCMEC website. We were just kind of going over cases and discussing them about malpractice issues and stuff like that, and ethical concerns. And man, some of these things you're just like, damn, like, man, like,
well,
you find yourself getting in trouble real quick if you're not protecting yourself.
There was that one that this was probably the worst, because like homeboy I think did the right job. Like, so he was going to work on like a pec minor, and so he gowned the person. He had seen her, massage therapist was seeing her, and then he came in and saw her like 3 times in, and then
thoroughly described the procedure to her, showed her a picture in a book of where he was going to work and why.
Yeah, and then so he got investigated. He got pulled into the sheriff's station or whatever, and they investigated him. And they ended up dropping it, but he did more than I would have done. I wouldn't have showed a picture of the technique. Yeah. So I don't know, but so anyway,
I mean, there's so much good stuff on this course, though. I mean, like we got Philip Snell for 4 hours, right? And everybody knows that he's just a wealth of knowledge, and so he's just dropping knowledge bombs left and right. So we've got that aspect of it covered, right? And we all know that that's also one of his major topics that he's really well versed in. We also have, what else? Tylenol.
So we have Greg Lyman to talk about his is, as I went through it, I feel like it was a little bit more of I know it'd be pain signs, but the just communication is the major takeaway I took from that.
Dude, he is so smart though. Like, he's just such a wealth of knowledge, and he's so well versed in a lot of the stuff that goes into like with Philip's stuff, because he did work with Stuart McGill a while ago, but his knowledge of pain science and how to approach it in a practical manner, like where the rubber hits the road, so you can make it useful for you when you go into practice, it's awesome. And I mean, really, I still use a ton of stuff that I learned from him all the time. And then I remember, just like, it was like a month or 2 months ago, I finished with a patient, and I realized afterwards, that like so much of that encounter was based off of information that I learned from Greg.
Yeah.
And I messaged him. I was like, dude, I just, like, oh man, it's just to say thank you, because it was so helpful in that case. And it really just comes down to like, making them feel safe.
I think that like the safe part I think is important, because when I was watching it through, I thought this would be really useful for a fear avoidance behavior type of thing, or at least
calm shit down, build shit back up.
Right. So someone else we have is everyone's already heard if they've been listening to this podcast. We have Cody D-Mac under the strength conditioning application for a flexion tolerant back. And so I actually flew out to Dallas to do that one. If you want to hear a little bit more conversation about it, it's I think episode 122 where I had him on. We talked about it. But we had actually a 6-month-old flexion intolerant case, an Olympic lifting coach in there, and so it was really cool because it was raw. Like, we didn't know anything about him, and Cody just went through and screened him prior to, and then we had him pulling 135 from blocks by the end, and he felt good. So it was a really cool real life application. We had another girl come in as well. So if you guys don't know what to do with these, you're unsure what to do with the application of weight training and telling them what to do with safe at the gym, either in CrossFit or in an actual other gym, like a big box gym, then this is gold for you. It's actually entertaining too.
Yeah. And then we also got a nutritional portion of this too, right? Yep.
James Valcarcel is going to go. He goes through a little bit more of nutritional. I'll say application. There's definitely some tech stuff in there. So be aware. It's like
support, right? Of being able to use nutrition in order to help, support the recovery process.
Yeah, there's things in there after I watched it through that a patient came in and he's like, "What do you think I should eat to feel better?" And I'm like, "That's a great question. I need to go back through that course again."
But yeah, I mean, and it's simple. There's simple. It's obviously it's a complex topic, but he simplifies it into practical ways that you can incorporate it on Monday. And I think that's the crux of this entire course is that everything that you'll learn in this course is something that is of value that you can put to use. And we've got people coming in to talk about it that are very, very well versed experts on that topic and are sought out by many providers and many docs like ourselves that we wanted to learn from. I mean, it really came down to me and Seb wanted to learn more, just like, the same reason we go to CE, same reason we host CE. And now while we're doing online CE, we just want to get as many smart people as we can and learn from them. And we also want to help other people learn from them too. And so this whole course it comes from that. And it's really just super valuable. I mean, like, if we didn't put this together, I wish somebody had this earlier because I would be just taking a ton of these courses already.
Yeah. I think I've told you and Philip before because you guys know different people than me because you came from the Midwest. But I tend to think if I would have seen this about a year out of school, it would have changed the course of how I practice.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree.
So I want everyone to check that course out. It's going to be at the time of this podcast. It's going to be live then. I will put a link in the show notes. You do get 12 CEs, by the way. I know we went back and forth on this, me, Ben, and Phil, where we're like, everyone else is charging this other price for CEs, and why are we charging more? And I'm like, I kept reminding them, you guys came from a different place. If I saw this a year out of school, it would change my career. So right. I said, we're not selling CEs, we're selling clinical pearls.
And we try to keep it as, in order to get the best people that we can on it, and considering we got this stuff accredited, right? That way you actually get credits for it. So you don't have to take pointless online CE when the time comes, right? When your birth month comes around. In order to do that quality, put more effort to it. We got more quality people on it. And so it's not the same price, but we try to keep the price as low as we could.
Right. Yeah. We got to pay them.
Yeah. Got to pay these people, right? And they deserve it, right? They put a lot of effort and work in and they deserve to be paid. So we, and that's the same trend. Like, as we move forward with this one and they move forward with the next one, we're already started with the people that we're going to be having on our next one. And it's just going to be another game-changing group of people that are going to have a heavy impact on everybody. It's just going to be even better as we continue to do this.
Are we allowed to talk about who might be the other module?
Let's talk about it next time.
Okay.
But there's definitely some heavy hitters in there.
Oh, it's going to be so good. Just another thought with this, and I actually didn't talk to you about this yet, but we were talking about what we should, if we should offer anything else in there. So the reason why I wanted to have this podcast earlier today was actually so I got Bo Beard coming in, going online, and I don't know if you saw my Instagram feed.
Smart dude. Bo Beard's a super smart dude and super passionate, and he's he's the second half of a power couple, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like two super powerful, super passionate, super smart people that get together, and then they're just awesome to be around.
Right. It's like it's like, I think, good cop, bad cop. But so Bo's going to come on. I did one of these the other night. I'm basically going through and doing a screen share of their website, because I've had so much success on my website and driving traffic that I wanted to help all of our clinicians that practice like us. I guess I'm going to be biased with that. I want people who I feel like I really trust to work on people that I know. If they live next door to them, I want them to rise to the top on Google search. So I'm going to take about 5 or 6 people where we're just basically just going to run through and try to improve their site. So the farm is going to be on it.
Nice.
Rush Chiropractic is on it, and I'm going to get a couple more. So anyways, those are going to be on the Pro Chiropractic site as well.
Beautiful.
I didn't tell you yet, but I just told you.
Happy to hear it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I thought about asking you, I wrote this on the little thingy. I thought about asking you to talk about business stuff and how to start up, and I thought Philip would be really good for communication.
Yeah. No, that would be great.
Yeah, and those wouldn't be.
I've actually got another friend of mine that I think I should introduce you to. Talk about business startup. He graduated with me, just opened his 4th location.
Oh, really? Who's this?
Yeah, Josh Kneinbelt and Lisa Peerbolt. Well, they're engaged now, so. But another power couple, and they're just super smart, super awesome, great people, very passionate and very driven. They've always been that way, and so you want to talk about somebody that launched out of a freaking rocket. It's them. So
yeah, we should maybe ask them to be on. So that it's to clarify, the reason I'm talking about this again, everybody, is that there's the CE stuff that we're offering on that site, but I think there's other topics that. I know as interns get out of school and they start thinking about, holy shit, I got to put food on the table. There's different considerations besides clinical skills, and there's communication as well as. I get probably easily 75% of my new patients from my website, just blindly emailing and calling me. So,
I think it's all a good addition, right? Because the crux of it is that we would just want to have good quality information that can help our community of docs succeed in every way that they're going to need, right? And in order to succeed in practice, you also have to have, you also have to be smart in your business game if you're going to open your own practice too. And so, this is stuff that we deal with every single day, right? And that we just want to have a bunch of great resources available for people in that regard, and have the people that we know and admire that got skin in the game and that are working their asses off in order to get quality information out there and make it available.
That's right. Good. So that'll be live by the time this hits. And probably to come the next couple of weeks, you'll hear from all the other presenters. James Valcarcel, you'll hear from Cody again, although I don't know what else we're going to talk about on that because we've already talked about other shit.
It's just a good conversation anytime with Cody.
Yeah, we'll just talk about some stuff.
Football.
So there was a video in there actually that I told him I was going to leave it on the course, and he keep begging me not to. So he was doing something on someone's foot, and I came crawling in with this GoPro on a stick that looked like a snake. And so he did, and the big camera caught it. He just saw this little snake thing coming out of the side, and so he just stopped. He's like, "You got to get out of the picture," and I started moving it like a little cobra. So you'll hear from Cody, you'll hear from Philip Snell, and then Greg Lyman. I just got to get him when he's in the country is all. But you'll hear from all those in sequence.
Nice.
Do you want to add anything about seminars, Ben, or Con Ed?
For anyone that's taken clinical neurodynamics already, we still have a few spots available for advanced clinical neurodynamics.
I don't know if this is going to launch by then.
This is okay. Got it. Okay.
But you can talk about.
But anyways, if this launches by then, in March 8, 9, 10, 11, we're gonna have Michael Shacklock for the only advanced course in the United States in 2019. So that's gonna be awesome. And then in April, 27, 28, or 28, 29, 27, 28, April 27, 28. Guido Van Rice Gym is going to be coming down to the gym here at Flow Force Rehab, and he's going to be teaching his course on sensory motor training. Now, if you guys haven't learned from Guido yet, man, that dude is smart. He's been on your podcast, once or twice?
Guido's been on once. He's on. It's funny. He's only been on now 2 podcasts. Mine's the second.
Man, he's a freaking genius. Like, he's a wealth of information.
He's number like 120, 121 in case you guys want to hear it.
Yeah. And then later on in the beginning of August, I'm going to have a PT, Scott Morrison, come down for his course, Sloptimal Loading. Scott's a real smart guy, full of information, very well versed in the literature. But that'll be down here in San Diego, in my spot, Flow Force Rehab, as well.
Nice. What's the weather like in San Diego during all those months?
During all those months, pretty good. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know what month you're talking about, but I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's all that matters. Like, every time you look at Hawaii, it says 85 and drizzling. Same thing. Yeah. I would definitely. I'm actually bummed. I wanted to go to Guido's down there, but one of my past front desk workers, Laura's getting married that day, but she's in San Diego. So, but I'll jump in there just to say hey. But yeah, Laura, I must really like you to go to your thing to miss this. I know you're not listening to this, Laura.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, so anyways. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to add, but how does everyone reach you, by the way?
They can reach me at flowforcerehab.com, flowforcerehab.com. There's a little thing where you can just email me straight up on there. If you want to look at me on Instagram, see what I'm up to, it's just at Flow Force Rehab. Same thing with Facebook, Flow Force Rehab. And then on my personal account on Facebook, I've tried to post a bunch of research and clinical stuff as well. So if you want to follow me on there and friend me or whatnot, we can do that.
Can I friend you and unfriend you? Does it alert you when I unfriend you?
Yeah, it will. And so if you unfriend, well, no, it doesn't alert me when you unfriend me. It alerts me when you friend me. But then when I stop seeing you and getting that dopamine response, right, that little notification about it, makes me sad.
If I mute you, do you still see me?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's I don't do a lot of cruising on social media anymore. I just post stuff,
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's test that theory. Okay. Well, thanks for being on then. And just hold on and we'll talk after.
Roger that.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to go check out that course. It will be in the show notes. The course is on a platform called Pro Chiropractic Online CE, PRO, and we're going to have a lot more coming over the next few months, hopefully. And I know that over the next month or so, I'm actually going to go videotape 2 people for the next module, which I believe is we're going to do cervical and upper quarter, so neck conditions, neck disc, neck facets, but also 2 referred pain into the arm, periscapular pain, rotator cuff conditions that won't resolve, labral conditions that won't resolve, radiculopathies and all that kind of stuff, and all things that actually you would think are actually going to be things that you might have to adjust or do manual therapy on. Sometimes if you clear out the neck and the shoulder, amazing things happen, even down to the distal extremity. So we're going to cover that into the next module, which is not going to release for a while, but I'm just so excited about it. I just want to talk about it now. So, but this first one, go through and check it out. If you guys don't like it, I think there's a partial refund policy if you want to do, but I really do believe you're gonna like it. So leave people better than how you found them, and if you're dating Eagle Scout, and tune in next week for another presenter we're gonna have on. You're gonna find it extremely valuable. I'll talk to you guys next week.